I want to introduce you guys Cece Wei and Taimur Saeed, who are working with the fraud and corruption team that not only encompassed 4 tables between about 6 experts and 40 data divers, but not 1, but 2 people who brought desktop computers. So that alone counts for something. I'll just turn it over to them from there, Cece and Taimur.
Hi guys. So we had a lot of like sub projects that we were working. We actually had 7, so we might just like kind of run through these really quickly. So one of the things we realized like quickly is that the World Bank has a lot of rich data sets they have internally, but they're not really connected. So one of the tasks that one of the subgroups tried to work on was connecting the debarment data of like known firms that have committed some kind of fraud with the project that they worked in. And we kind of worked towards that goal. We actually, because the World Bank only has a list of their currently debarred companies. So what we did was we used the Lookback Machine. We scraped all the entire list from like 2005 to current of all companies that have been debarred. And hopefully we're working towards integrating that with the project data. And while that was happening, one of our group members decided to do some old-fashioned like investigating, and she zoomed in on a single country and looked at and like went through contractors in detail, doing like just like old school research, and she found like looking for particular relationships between contractors. She found some instances. She actually found some instances of people misrepresenting information. Like they said that like in the contract they said that they were based in one country, but their corporate home site says they're based in another country, and she'd ideally like to work towards getting more data on the contractors and on the subcontractors that use the World Bank finances. And then we also had a really awesome project with one of the desktop guys. They actually decided to create a database and to help find and like collect all the information on all companies that are contractors for the World Bank, and they actually built a database and an API, and this is an example of the screenshot. And so this would be an awesome tool for people in the fraud and corruption unit, because you can actually go through and click on each link, and it'll give you detailed information on that company, where they're working at, what projects they've been working at, and any kind of relationships they might have with some other company. And ideally, these guys, they like to continue their project, and they want to get more data sources to use, because they actually, all this data, the profile data on the companies was actually scraped from the internet using different search APIs. I think, yeah.
Another one of our team members started out with all of the project data from the World Bank projects from the 1940s to present day. And he analyzed the data by month, right? Which kind of showed us, hey, why are all of these projects being approved in June, right? Well, it turns out after talking to one of our experts that it's the end of the fiscal year. And so everybody's trying to get all of their projects in at the same time. So then, bam, he was like, let's map it out by month. And as you can see, right, as the year kind of progresses, now June is at the end, so pay attention, that's the last month, right? Everything, it's like ramping down, we're okay, and then all of a sudden March, April, May, June, right? So the takeaway from this project is really, maybe we should put a lot of emphasis on investigating projects that are approved in June for due diligence.
So, am I next? Okay. Can you, so then another one of our group members decided to collect data from the supplier and funding information we had and map it. And so this is an example. These two maps show, the top one shows the number of supplier contracts by country, and the bottom one shows the borrower contracts by country. And so you can actually see which countries typically get contracts, and which countries get suppliers, and there's a lot of interesting information contained there. And then he decided to further look at the debarred data and see which countries had companies that had companies that got debarred, and what were the reasons for debarment. So, and this is actually, he developed an interactive tool, but this is like sort of a screenshot. So if you look at the tool, you can actually click on each pie chart, and you'll see the distribution of the reasons why these companies were debarred. Yeah.
So then another one of our team members started out with all of the major contracts from the World Bank that were awarded between 2007 and 2012. And he kind of looked at the commonalities between not only the companies listed in the major contracts, but also the debarment data that we had. And he's looking for similarities, right? So for example, do they have the same address? Do they have the same officers named? And so he computed the relationship. And what you're seeing here is the relationship between one debarred company with all of the other companies in the data set. right? And so that's just one relationship. If you wanted to, you could see all of the relationships. And so really, like, he used Gephi to create the visualization, but the key takeaway from this one is, well, like, if the relationships are so strong, right, really investigate, like, why it is the case that there are so many ties in between these companies, and if it is at all related to fraud or not, right? Maybe it's for a natural reason, like everybody makes pavement, you know, and so we all bid on the same things. And then the next one is a very similar project that another one of our team members did, which is looking at all of the awarded contracts from the World Bank site, and it's about 5,000 web pages that were scraped to sort of find this data visualization, and we're parsing data about bids specifically, as well as who won the bid and who was rejected and who was evaluated. And so looking at this, we collected the metadata about the contract and all the data about the bidder specifically and created a large CSV to have that in all one comprehensive place. And to see sort of if there is a basis to look for co-bidding collusion, we mapped out exactly which companies were always showing up for the bids for the same projects. So here in each of these clusters, we're basically saying the stronger the ties between two nodes is that the more often those two companies are always bidding against the same thing. And sort of these like 7 or 8 clusters just like shot out of the data. And so for this one, where to go next, right, is to really go back to the beginning, reinvestigate the data that's going into this visualization, and see if there is something to be said about co-bidding collusion in these areas. So basically, right, we did a lot of things. We really found a lot of loosely connected data sets, which with a little bit of effort could be used to investigate really meaningful relationships. So I think going forward, all of the wonderful work that the fraud and corruption team volunteers have done is set the foundation for the World Bank to investigate the relationships that they have found. So we would love to have everybody on the team stand up right now.
Come on, yeah, come on, everybody.
Thank you guys, and we want to say special thank you to Mark and Simon and Betsy and Steve and Marcelo and Peter and everyone else at the World Bank that were so supportive of all of our questions and helping us get to all of this.
Yep. Thanks. Yep. Yeah, sure. All right.
Awesome stuff. I think it was maybe Simon's Scotland Yard influence on this team that had everyone sort of around, like I was watching an episode of CSI, where everyone was sleuthing a different way and putting up Goodwill Hunting charts like this, which I just thought was awesome. So really quickly, any questions for this team? Big hand back there.
Could you say some more detail about the process of scraping the data about projects from the of contractors or companies from the World Bank web pages?
Sure. So before the data dive, we had collected data on the projects, and within that, we also pulled out data that linked to contract notices and contract awards. And so the volunteers who were working on our team had access to that data. Mm-hmm. So that basically linked to the procurement notices. And then within that, it's like sort of hard coded. So they had to like use basically kind of simple rules to like pull out like the contractor names, the awards they bid, and the number of bidders that were in a certain contract bidding process.
Okay, so that was done in advance?
No.
Some of it was done in advance, some of it was done here.
Yeah.
Cool. So if you guys have other questions about this, please find CC or Tamer after. There's a lot here. And again, that team I just loved looking over there, and there were so many engaged World Bank people. I want to just shout you guys out again for staying and being committed and answering these questions.